Alright, hello everyone, hello. If you're in this video, you probably have either a passing interest in light novels or you are super deep in the light novel rabbit hole. Either way, welcome. Today I want to talk about 10 light novel recommendations that could either get you started or, if you've read the more mainstream ones and you want to read something a little bit deeper, a deeper cut, you've come to the right video. Now, with that being said, this light novel list won't mention, like, for example, Mishoko Tensei, Classroom of the Elite, ReZero, the really high tier, popular mainstream ones. Now, of course, those are great. Here you go. Here's a recommendation. Read those three. Those are amazing, but those are like in every single list. So I wanted to do 10 that I feel like maybe a lot of people don't talk about. Some are more mainstream than others. Some have anime, some don't. Some have manga, some don't. So yeah, just relax, grab a seat, grab some snacks. This probably won't take that long, but still grab some snacks and let's start the list. Alright, so my first recommendation is actually the first light novel series I ever read, which is weird because it's not many people's first ever light novel series, and I have to admit, it's not the greatest thing under the sun, but it is good enough to recommend it. And that one being Trapped in a Dating Sim, the world of Otome games is tough for mobs. So if you're not familiar with light novels and the light novel sphere, Otome games are one of the main isekai genres that people like. It's okay, I'm not gonna say if you're a guy you can't read these. They're mostly targeted for women because it's like reverse harem, which I don't really like that term because it's like, okay, basically it's about a girl main character that a bunch of hot dudes are into her, right? So it's like, oh, quote unquote reverse harem. So this kind of pokes fun, kind of gives it its own spin on that genre. Essentially what it is, our main character Leon is doing a favor for his sister and playing this Otome game, this dating sim for girls game, and he gets stuck, and basically he tries to live this society as a complete background character. And what I find really interesting about this series, again, it's not the deepest series, but the world building is pretty good. It's decent enough. It's not amazing, but it's decent. The characters are good, and I think the whole, like, I'm in the background, but then, of course, eventually he blends in with the people that are supposed to be the main characters of this world. And it also has like some mecha elements, which I completely did not expect. I think this is a good series. It has underlying romance, but honestly, if you're in here purely for romance, it's not the greatest romance, at least not for like the first like 4 or 5 volumes. The romance is pretty slow, again, it's kind of harem-y. It's kind of like, oh, I ship him with this girl, but it's in the bottom of this list for a reason. I recommend it. It has a special place in my heart for being the first ever light novel I ever read. If you're into the Otome games genre and you haven't checked this one out, if you're into mecha and you haven't checked this one out, if you're into a main character that isn't like super dense cookie cutter and actually has some funny interactions and some funny thoughts, check this one out. It has a pretty interesting premise, and I don't believe it's not very long. I think there's 10 volumes out right now, and I don't know if it's finished. However, I will say stay away from the anime. The anime is dog stupid, ultra trash, and should never be seen by anyone. And the art style is horrible. The light novel art style is way better, and the writing is way better on that one. Alright, number 9 is Full Clearing in Another World Under a Goddess with Zero Believers. This one is digital only at the moment and has no anime, so this one is honestly kind of niche, but I will say I liked it. Now, I am a Danmachi fan, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon fan, another light novel series, which, spoiler alert, you may or may not hear a little bit in the future. And this series, at least for me, has a lot of similarities to Danmachi. However, it's not as good. But if you're someone that's caught up with Danmachi, if you're someone that loves that type of stuff, this could give you that fix. It has a main character that wields a dagger. He's part of he follows a goddess that no one else follows. Already the similarities are there. He gets his powers through her. So that's pretty much where the similarities end, though, besides it being just like a fantasy world. This one is an isekai. It is very interesting because although in the surface it seems super like, dude, we've been here, I already know about this, this is so lame. Protagonist that starts with one skill and then it becomes OP, like, oh. But I think what makes this light novel, and just read volume 1, I would say read volume 1, get to the end, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The end has like a very interesting twist, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The writer actually cares about this world, actually cares about the story, and is being kind of deep with it. The story gets really deep, and then as the light novels progress, you get more and more of this kind of mystery and intrigue of like, what is really going on in this world? And the characters are honestly, they're not the best characters. I'm not gonna lie. The characters around the main character, it's kind of harem-y. There are some that I really like for example his best friend, who's this like chubby dude that became like kind of like a god in this world for, I won't say how, but he did. He's like famous, and the way that he speaks all formal, and like it's there's some moments in this series where I'm like, okay, the characters are fine, but honestly I think what keeps me reading, what keeps me up to date with this series, is just the mystery, intrigue, and the plot at the end. Like the goal they're trying to reach is something that I want to see, is something that intrigued me. So I say, if you like your fantasy actiony, especially if you're a fan of dungeon, please take a look at this series. I think it's pretty good. All right, number 8 is Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so max out my defense. Now, this series does have an anime. You've probably heard of this one. This one actually is pretty popular. It is pretty much about my girl, Maple, which is, I love this character. She's so fun to just read and experience. Essentially, who's a noob in video games as a whole. She's playing a VR MMO, so, another very, very popular light novel genre. Just think SAO, and you know what I mean. Put on your headset, you're in the game, boom. And pretty much she got convinced by her friend to play this game. She didn't even want to try it out, and she thinks that if she gets hurt in game, it's gonna hurt her, even though I don't think that's the case. But essentially she gets so scared about that she dumps every single skill point into her defense, and it creates this hilarious, almost One Punch Man type series where she's so incredibly OP, except she almost doesn't even know that she is. She's just like, okay, I'm not getting hit. Cool. That worked out. And she's unlocking all these skills that no one in the game has ever been able to unlock. And she's becomes like famous in there's like these moments where you can see the forums and you can see the chatters talk about her. And honestly, the author perfectly captured how these online users talk, and it's one of my favorite moments, just seeing them be in awe, like, who is this girl, why is she so powerful, what is going on? And again, kind of like a One Punch Man effect, where yes, she is a comedic character, she is an OP character, but the characters around her, the friends, the allies she makes, are like taking this game actually serious. Now again, it's not gonna get dark and crazy, especially because they can log out. This isn't a you die in real life game, but the characters have this really, really cool fight scenes. They get strong, and there's just Maple in the middle, and there's some cool moments with Maple too, don't get me wrong. But yeah, this is a perfect series if you want something just lighthearted, something fluffy, something fun that still can get hype. Just don't expect the hype to have a lot of weight to it. It's just like, literally, it's just fun. It's almost like watching a let's play. It's just fun. So yeah, give this one a shot. All right, number 7 is The World's Strongest Rear Guard. Now, this is a very interesting series. I personally am not caught up. I think I'm 3 volumes in, and the reason why I wanted to write this one is because, one, although it is an isekai, it is not a high school isekai. It is someone that's already a bit older. And 2, the premise, basically he gets isekai in this world. There's like classes in this world, and pretty much the class that he ends up is the rear guard, or the support. Now, I thought coming into this that it was going to be okay, I'll give this one a shot. But honestly, having a story, a fantasy fight story, where the main character is in the back, he's a tactician, he's supporting his allies as his allies fight, is honestly a joy to read. It almost reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard about this one, I guess it's a bonus recommendation. Reminds me of The Realist Hero Rebuilt a Kingdom. Now, I know that these series have absolutely nothing to do with each other, but just kind of like the way that the main characters think, I think are kind of similar. Like, The main character in this isekai is smarter than your average isekai. He's not like this crazy intelligent genius, mind you, but it creates some good moments, some really engaging hype moments. I think more hype than pretty much any of the series I've talked below this list. The fights are really interesting. The premise is really interesting. The characters seem like they're a little bit more complex, a little bit deeper. However, I'm not super deep into it yet. I believe there's like 7 out right now, or 8. So I need to catch up. This is a series that I really like. Also, the art I find really good. I don't think there's an anime or anything. There might be a manga, but yeah. Check this one out if you are tired of your main characters just being this badass OP dude. And you know, the support thing, it's kind of cool. Trust me, it's kind of cool. All right, my 6th one. Okay, please promise me you're gonna hear me out. Okay, I don't want you to leave once you hear me say this title. Hear me out. Okay, here it is. My 6th one is Reborn as a Vending Machine. I think the full title is like, and now I wander the dungeon or something. But Reborn as a Vending Machine. Okay, so this is an infamous light novel hater title, or honestly, it's just infamous in the light novel community because it's pretty much the token title of how far has isekai come? This is garbage. Why are we doing this? How did we get here? And pretty much people that like to dismiss the isekai genre always go like, yeah dude, they can think about anything, like there's the vending machine one, but no one's like read it. No one has actually read this series. It's 3 little volumes. I caught up in like literally a day and a half. It is gonna get an anime, crazy enough, so fingers crossed that this light novel continues, because it's not a finale or anything. The author abandoned this series pretty much, but hopefully because of the anime, if there's a passing interest in the vending machine isekai, then hopefully we get more volumes, because honestly I really enjoyed this. So now you might be like, why? Okay, so let me tell you, I love me some trashy isekai. Okay, I'm not claiming that this is a masterpiece, that this is the greatest piece of fiction ever, but this series does have a competent writer. So, vending machine isekai is exactly how it is. It's about a guy that gets hit by it, that gets killed, and gets reborn as a vending machine. And this girl just wears him like a backpack, and he has big old eyes, and he's just chilling in this world. Not only is the art style honestly pretty interesting, his skills are pretty interesting. Essentially, like, since he's a vending machine, he can literally like dispense items. So honestly, he's kind of like a support thing, and it's not like this awkward situation where he's just like sprouting legs and he's fighting, or he can even talk. So like you have his like inner monologue, and then you have like his friends. And I think what makes this really interesting is just the characters around the main character are way better written than you would expect. The world seems like it is actually cared about, and the story, although it's kind of, you know, your dungeon crawly story, your guildy story, I honestly don't think that this series is bad at all. I mean, it's number 6 on this list for a reason. It's kind of hard to talk about it because it's really not that deep at all, but it's also like legitimately fun. Like, I was hooked. I read the first volume and the second volume, I think, in like one day, so it's pretty short. It's just good old fun. It's like almost like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, but yeah, just trust me, if you want something super unique and aren't thrown off by just the premise, there is something here for isekai fans. Trust me. All right, number 5 is a personal pick for me. I absolutely adore this series. Only 1 volume in English, okay? Only 1 volume in English. No isekai this time. And this is From Toxic Classmates to Girlfriend Goals. Now, I love me some romance, okay? This is a pure, fluffy, sweet, almost sweet, so sweet that I'm gonna get a cavity type story. I believe there's 6 volumes out in Japan. Only 1 here. 2nd volume announced, so stay tuned for that. But it's Tentai books, if you're not familiar. They take 20,000 trillion years to translate, so I wouldn't put my hopes up anytime soon. But this series is pretty much about a guy who is very intuitive, okay? This isn't your dense protagonist. This dude is an ultra mega Chad. He can look at you, he can read you better than you can read yourself. And it's about this girl who everyone's scared of. She has long silver hair, so beautiful, and everybody thinks she's some sort of like wicked witch, like a mean girl type thing. And this guy pretty much can read her, and he can be like, oh, I know you want me to take you on a date, so let's go on a date. Like, it's crazy because, dude, I'm so tired of these dense protagonists that you spend 45 volumes with, and then the last volume, they like touch hands, and then boom, series finale. It's like, no. This main character is about that action, and the girl is so, oh my god, this is just such a heartwarming series. Like, it made me feel so mushy and gushy the whole time. Like, their romance, when they of course eventually start hanging out with each other and how they grow, it's just such a very interesting story because the girl's very hard and very like she's very reserved, but he reads her so well, and it's so like endearing because he's not like overbearing or mean or anything. And just the way that she's like, oh my god, finally, like, someone can like understand me, and the way she starts to slowly open up, like, I can't wait for more volumes. This series is so good. It's a very quick read, and honestly, I would just I would recommend it if you just love some romance. This is a good romance, trust me. All right, number 4, going back to isekai. Oh no, I'm sorry, but this is a good one. You might have heard of it. It does have an anime. It is So I'm a Spider, So What. Okay, again, the phrase of the day is, this series is deeper than you think, because this series is honestly deeper than you think. So I'm a Spider, So What is a very, very dungeon crawly, heavy, RPG inspired isekai in the beginning. Essentially, a classroom gets isekai'd, gets absolutely obliterated, and our main character gets turned into a level 1 baby spider, and everyone else in her class is like different, like OP or middle of the pack or like a king or a prince or whatever, but she is literally in the bottom of the bottom. And in the first few volumes, I believe it's like the first 4-5-ish volumes, it's just pretty much her trying to escape this dungeon. And the way she gets OP, because this is an OP isekai, but the way she gets OP is very, very fun. Like, she legitimately works for her getting strong. It's not just like, oh, you're a spider, but by the way, you have a skill where every time you snap your fingers, you become god. Like, no. She works for it, she fights for it, and you feel the progression. Like, this spider was not meant to be OP, but she found a way. She literally started from 0 and rose to, I'm not even gonna say how high, but she rose high. And besides that, besides just a really, really cool aspect of seeing her growth, she's a very funny character. She's really good because most of the time it's literally just her monologuing the dungeon, because there's not a lot of characters. And also there is 2 POVs. It's the spider character and then the POV of another classmate that I don't want to talk too much about, because basically the classmate POV is what serves as your world building, your character development, your, okay, let's explain what's going on. And then it cuts to the spider girl that's just in this dungeon because she doesn't know anything about the world. So the POV is almost like not a narrator, because there is a plot there, but it's pretty much just an excuse for us to learn about the world before the spider girl does. But get to volume 7, which I know is a tough thing to say, but volume 7 is when the series hits a big plot twist, and you reveal something amazing. I really don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna say anything. If you've read Spider, you know what's up, but just know that there's so much more. It's kind of one of those things where when you reread it, you're like, oh damn, now I see what's going on. The series is so smart in its writing. The world, the story, the plot is handcrafted, beautifully put together. This series is really, really good. I believe it's gonna hit its finale this year, so get on it. The plot, dude, the plot is just, once you get to volume 7, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, wow, one of the greatest plot twists in light novels ever. So yeah, just Give this one a shot, trust me. All right, number 3, I have to mention this series. This is the most mainstream one, okay? So I apologize, but you can't talk about light novels without talking about the GOAT, Overlord. Now, I call it the GOAT, but it's only top 3. What does that mean? So pretty much, me personally, what I enjoy in a story, volumes 2 and 1 have it, but I can't deny the absolute S tier, like insane. This isn't even a light novel. This is like just a literal, just a regular novel series. That is Overlord. From the illustrations that literally look like paintings to the writing that is absolutely masterclass, can throw pretty much any light novel series out for the water, is this one. Honestly, I don't have to tell you much. You probably already seen the anime. You probably already like the series. And if you have seen the anime, please, please, please read the light novels. Or honestly, just look up the light novel illustrations because they are so good. They're the best light novel illustrations in the entire fandom, in the entire industry. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. They are that good. And if you haven't heard about Overlord, then wow, that's crazy. But pretty much, it's about this guy who plays this MMO. He has a guild. They were the strongest guild. They were like this evil guild. He's like the skeleton dude. If you haven't heard of Overlord, I'm sure you've already at least seen him. And pretty much he gets trapped in this world that is the game, but not really. Like, it's not like a So I'm a Spider So What situation where he literally has like stats and levels up and gains skills. Like, he's basically pretty much in a copy of the game world, but it has not become the real world. If I had to give him a goal, it would be that he's trying to find his long lost guild members. And pretty much from the gate, he is like this OP villain. And just what he does, like, pretty much in his heart, in his mind, deep down, he's this like 30-year-old something awkward gamer dude, but he has to fill this role of being a literal overlord that oversees demons and craziness. And then it kind of falls, like, he almost like descends into madness, but like, this is such a good series. If you're gonna read anything on this list, I know this is number 3, which is kind of funny to say it, but just to read this one, especially like if you like dark, gritty stories with pretty good combat, I think volume 1 towards the end is what sealed the deal for me. So yeah, check out Overlord. All right, number 2, and this is one that I teased like way back in the list, is Danmachi, also known as, get ready for this, is a rank to pick up girls in a dungeon. Okay, so you've probably heard of the anime. You might have not checked out the light novels though, and let me tell you, the light novels are better. Now, the anime is actually not too bad. Number 1, the anime is like pretty bad, so like don't check it out. But this one, the light novels are better, but it's not like the anime is unwatchable. And you've probably seen the anime, but this is my time to tell you, read the light novels. Now, this is recency bias because I just finished binging the series, and I absolutely adore this series. Essentially, this story follows our protagonist Belle as he's trying to become an adventurer to pick up girls. But in his first adventure down the dungeon, he gets honestly almost killed by this giant monster. And what saves him but a beautiful girl? So it kind of does the spin on like, oh, I wanted to save a girl, but a girl ended up saving me. And the story basically just follows him trying to reach her, trying to get strong enough to reach her. And what makes the story really good to me is the world building is like no other. Essentially, these characters are put into familias, which are blessings of the gods. And in this world, the gods decided, you know what? Heaven is kind of boring. Let's just go down to the human world and just mingle. But it's not one of those things where like the gods like overrule, or like your god could be your co-worker. You know what I mean? Like, gods can either, honestly, they can rule countries or be really powerful, or like in Belle's goddess Hestia, in her case, she's just a regular girl that's just working at a potato stand, you know? And the only way to level up, this is not an isekai, but the only way to level up and gain stats is by getting a blessing of your god or goddess. And this is what Belle does. And the story, just the plot gets really going, I want to say, after volume 3, which is like the first mini arc. You get to be like, okay, there's more to this, okay. And the characters, the interactions are so good. Some of my favorite characters in just anime in general are in this series. I can't do it justice with just words. I want to do a proper review of volumes 1 through 3. And honestly, that might be my next video, because I want more people to read this series. I think this series is so good, and the current chapter right now, we're waiting for volume 18, but the current volume, like where the story's at right now, is honestly peak light novel. Like, this is great. The story has never been better. So yes, please check this one out. Honestly, this is one that I don't mind saying. If you hate light novels, just watch the anime. Like, at least consume this series at some form, because it's really, really, really good. All right, we've arrived at my number one pick. My number one pick is Ascendance of a Bookworm. Light novel fans will have this in at least their top 5. There isn't a single person that I've seen that is caught up in this series that doesn't have it either as their favorite of all time, or like top 3, or like top 2. This series, honestly, look, I'm not gonna lie, it's a hard sell. It is pretty much about a girl that loves, adores books, wants to be a librarian, ends up dying by books, and gets reincarnated in a medieval European looking area. And the thing is, in this world, there is literally zero books. Books are like royalty. Books are like so rare. Books are pretty much like the sports car equivalent. And she is the poorest of the poor. But she's so smart. She is so smart. So she starts trying to make books herself, trying to find ways to read books. And this is what I mean by it's a hard sell. This story has very little action, has like again, just a story about a girl making books. How good can that be? I thought the same thing. The only reason why I gave this series a chance is because in the community, this series is like the god of all series. This is like the end all be all for light novel readers. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to get into the light novels. I want to at least know what this series is about. I binge read this series. I'm not caught up fully, but I'm like in the middle of part 3. This series is split into parts. And let me tell you, this is so much deeper than just a girl making books. The world building runs so deep. I know the world of Ascendance of a Bookworm more than I know my own world. You can hear about everything, like their culture, what they eat, their religion, their like the way their society works, the way, like, I even know minimum wage. Like, you know so much about this world. It is so beautifully crafted. And the main character, Mine, she's very young. It doesn't like start her off as like a 20-year-old. Like, she literally, you see her grow, you watch her grow, and there's no like harem, there's no weird stuff. Like, it's literally just a good story. Like, it is a wonderful, amazing story. And this is, honestly, I don't think it will ever be dethroned. The more light novel series that I read, this still remains in the top. You know, Danmachi almost made it to number 1, but I was like, nah, A Sense of a Bookworm, it's just better. It's just a better series. It's a masterful series. Give this one a chance. This one, I would say, is a masterpiece. If the synopsis throws you off, I wouldn't recommend the anime, but at least watch the anime until, look up where part 1 ends in the anime and watch all of part 1, and then start part 2 of the light novels if you have to. I would recommend you to just start from the beginning, but I would say part 2 is when you're like, oh, okay, there's an actual plot here. But yeah, just check this series out, Ascendance of a Bookworm. I cannot stress it enough. It is a masterpiece. Go. All right, and there it is, 10 light novel recommendations from me to you. I hope there's one light novel in this list that caught your eye, maybe more than one. If you're interested in any of these series and want to talk more about them, I'll be in the comments, I'll be whatever. I can make dedicated videos, honestly, about every single one of these series. I really like these series as a whole. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Spunk out.